Podstock.
Breaking news. We haven't done a breaking news on this show since Jay Gruden got fired or Ron got hired, one of those two. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, and we haven't done very many of them.
No. But this, I believe, counts as a reason.
I wouldn't have done it. I told you before.
Well, yeah, but you're Mr. Negative these days. You're Mr. Negative about everything.
I'm Mr. Reality, so it appears.
Well, regardless of who's actually buying the team, it's happening.
Yes.
And we are at a point where we're probably going to get the actual, most likely Josh Harris, but the news within the next day or two.
I would like to point out that you guys can't see this, but Dave is wearing an HTTR hat and what appears to be, from what I can see, a Redskins jersey.
Daryl Green.
Number 28.
Yeah. I got on my old Chris Cooley throwback. The 2002.
I could finally wear my Redskins things with dignity and pride today.
Well, I haven't been able to do that in 24 years. Let's not say dignity, Dave. I don't know about you and dignity.
I'm wearing my Leonard Skinner T-shirt, but that's neither here nor there.
All right, so let me go through the quick timeline. 1248, Sportico put out a report by Scott Soshnik and Evan Novoy Williams. Get easier names, please. Help me out. But these guys put out an article. They say 99% sure, or it's 99% done. Dan Snyder has come to an agreement with Josh Harris in principle at that point. The deal, there's been two numbers I've seen bantied about. One is $5.8 billion. The one I'm seeing from what I would call the Snyder camp is $6.05 billion. And if you want to know why I think that's from the Snyder camp, he wants to say he got $6 billion. He wants to say he broke that number instead of saying 5.8. So that's the number you saw from guys like Charles Gasparzito, who's a Dan Snyder guy. He's a Fox Business reporter. I heard him on Grant and Danny. By the way, when I was listening to him on Grant and Danny, he said they're sending the paperwork to the NFL headquarters tomorrow morning, basically, with the signed agreement. So then the NFL will do their background checks and all the financial stuff that Steve loves. And I bet Steve kind of wishes he could do that himself.
What, a background check?
No, the really. Financial analysis of.
Oh, that'd be fun. Sure. Yeah absolutely.
of a couple of billionaires trying to buy a football
I'd
team.
hire somebody to do a background check.
No. Yeah. Background checks are awful. We've all been through background checks. They suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that's where the story broke. It's been confirmed by pretty much every major national sports writer, major business analyst. Like I said, Gasparzito, who's a Dan Snyder guy, he was the one who confirmed it from the other side, as I would put it.
Now that you've gotten all that out, will you allow me to tell you the truth of what's going on here?
Steve is now going to piss all over our parade. Yes.
Probably.
Yep.
But remember, I do deals like this for a living.
Sure.
So what has clearly gone on here is that Little Danny has accepted a bid from one of these people, presumably Dave's buddy, Josh Harris. But yes. There is what they've probably done is signed something along the lines of a non-binding letter of intent, or a term sheet or something like that. There is not an agreement in place. There is not an exclusive arrangement here. There's not an exclusive option period. He apparently has accepted a term sheet, and that is progress. But this means that other bidding could still occur. You could, a term sheet like this or a letter of intent you can throw in the trash can. Something like this is not done until an agreement to sell is signed. So I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I'm all about Frog March and Little Danny out of town, believe me. But I don't think this is worthy of celebration or frankly an emergency podcast just yet. I'm always willing to talk to you guys, but I think it's not quite ripe now to say this is done because the owners have to vote on him. They still have to negotiate an agreement. If they haven't done that already, it has to be signed. There's going to be like an escrow period for this. All that stuff has to happen. So it's not quite done yet. There's a ways to go here. This is just the first sign that we're rounding third, put it that way.
I would say we've touched third at this point. Because,
no, you're wrong.
Short of Stephen Appanopoulos about the business coming up with another $500 million, with that supposedly.
Well, we don't know any about these numbers. This number is all a bunch of media garbage. We don't really know. My point here is that, I mean, make whatever baseball analogy we want, fine. But I think clearly that there is an agreement in principle means somebody signed a letter of intent and they're going to ask the NFL about it. This is non-binding. Snyder could tear it up. He could change his mind and wait for more bids. Who knows? So it's don't get too excited yet. That's all I'm saying.
Now, have you ever seen these non-binding type of agreements ever have a clause in there where it's like if someone comes up with an offer, I'll give you the option to match that or come over top of it, maybe?
Its very nature, a non-binding letter of intent means that you can do whatever you want with this.
Sure.
You can set it on fire. You can, hold yourself to it. You can do anything. So certainly, I don't think it needs to be said, really, that if little Danny got another bid from someone, certainly he would, and it would be in his best interest to play one bid off the other and see which one is one, see if they're willing to go higher. It's not the very nature of being non-binding means they can do whatever they want.
Sure.
But we are talking about the timing. It's not surprising. We talked about this yesterday real quick, that Bezos was out. He came out and said he was out. Tillman Fertitta came out and said he was out.
But, yeah. Fertitta is his name. Yeah. Fertitta.
He's cooked now, so he's a Fertitta. Tillman Fertitta came out and said he was out. He wasn't willing to go over 5.5 or whatever the number was, something like that. Him. Yeah. He said, this is what Forbes said. That's what I bid. And he was done. So it was down to these two guys, Stephen Anopoulos. And
we got to figure out his freaking name. Hold on.
I'm actually, sorry. I think it's Apolopoulos.
Well, we're going to, okay, how do we spell? Okay, so, no, it's not Apolopoulos. It's Apostolopoulos.
Apostolopoulos, thank you.
Apostolopoulos.
All together now.
Apostolopoulos. Pasta frittata.
Just don't ask me to say it 5 times fast. That's all.
Actually, say it 5 times fast, Dave.
But it was down to
Let me finish my beer first.
And Harris is clearly the one everyone is saying they're going with right now. And it's a question of, can this one guy somehow come up with the money fairly quickly at this point?
I thought I recalled something where Steve Papadopoulos had some issues of getting the financial backing aligned. Yes. However, whatever that means. So, I mean, for him to come up with that extra more money, I don't know how much more difficult that would be. Steve, you'd probably know that a lot better.
It's impossible to know when we don't know anything about the structure of their bid at all. I mean, we're just talking about like Twitter reports and
right.
I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, is it difficult to come up with another $1 billion in guaranteed financing? Of course it is. But I don't know anything about his true business, his business assets. If he's got hidden partners, that nobody knows about, I mean, it's really hard to answer that.
Right.
The one thing that I think is big and we haven't mentioned, the Josh Harris group, part of the big report is they've got all the financing sorted out at this point. So this is a fully financed offer at this point, which means all their loans are good to go, all that stuff that all about that, Steve.
Reportedly. I mean, we don't know that. I mean, that's the report. Just right.
I mean, it helps that him and Michael Rawls are both, valued over $5 billion according to Forbes, anyways. I mean, I'm sure that helps, along with the assets that they have.
Let me tell you about that. So usually, when you do big time financing like this, all this stuff is in the name of corporations, okay? So Josh Harris doesn't just walk up and write a check for a football team.
Right.
There's going to be, I would guess this is probably going to be a stock sale or a merger, one of those two, meaning that the winning bidder, presumably Harris, when it closes, will come in and just purchase the stock of Pro Football Inc., which owns the team. Right. Because right now, little Danny owns 100% of the stock of that, or between him and his wife and mother, whoever it is. Or Josh Harris could form another entity and then just merge Pro Football Inc. into the new entity. So that's what. But my point in saying that, I mean, only corporate nerds like me would think that's interesting. But when you have loans, commercial loans, the borrower is going to be Pro Football Inc. or the purchasing entity, right? So then you get Harris and the other minority partners to sign full or partial guarantees of the purchase price.
Right.
And so while they don't have to have, as I said yesterday, $6 billion in cash in the bank, they're going to have a personal guarantee. There may be liens on their other business assets. Depending on how much money they bought or how much money they borrowed, rather. So there's probably a guarantee. There may be other liens that we don't know about.
Well, there might be. I mean, Harris already owns his sports entity that owns multiple franchises in other sports. I'd assume you would likely just use that for most.
Well, maybe. I mean, if it were me, I'd want to put it in a single-purpose entity. I don't know if you'd want to have them all under one umbrella. So he may have like a master holding company,
right?
Say, and have the entities that own all the teams under that. I mean, there's tax advantages and business advantages to do that. I don't think it would be smart to have one entity own.
So they would all be subsidiaries of the sure
of whatever his master holding company is. Harris Inc. Whatever it is.
It's something sports, like Mid-Atlantic, North Atlantic Sports or something.
It's like some marketing person dreamed it up. Probably. Yeah.
Well, I know
go ahead.
I know Sixers and the Devils, or at least the Sixers, fall under the Blitzer Sports entity itself. So
okay.
So what you're talking with that, I'm thinking that's probably what he did there, which is what you're saying he'll probably end up doing in a whole different entity with Washington if he takes them. So if I'm understanding that correctly, that's pretty much what he did with the Sixers. So
I would any reasonable business attorney would tell him to form a separate entity. And the other thing is, whatever liens he's got on the other corporation. Because he had to borrow money, presumably, to buy those other teams. Those other lenders wouldn't appreciate, major corporate structural changes without their approval, and so you'd want to just totally separate it. It would really mess things up if all of a sudden you've got, other liens and other assets, and so I think it would be a guarantee that, if I had to venture a guess, if it were me, I'd probably just form a new entity, put it under my umbrella, merge Pro Football Inc. into the new entity. That's why. The other way you could go is an asset sale, but when you're talking about a football team, that's really difficult, to line it all up. And I think it'd be a lot easier just to do a sale of the stock one way or the other.
Yeah. So, assuming that, let's say they are going forward, let's say Friday or Monday they send something to the NFL. The NFL is going to start their investigation on the financial side and the background checks of Josh Harris. Background checks are literally, question one, are you Dan Snyder? No? Okay.
Well, that's not in any way. That's not even in the universe of normal it is at all. But this guy has already cleared this once.
Right.
Okay? Harris has. This Stevie Apostolopoulos has not.
Right.
But Harris bid unsuccessfully on the Denver Broncos, and so
he's
they
also
already know him.
Owner of the Steelers already.
All they need to do is update, over the year, make sure he hasn't, caroused with coke and hookers in the past year, and that's the end of it, Right.
No visits to Jeffrey Epstein Island or anything like that.
Right. So that's all they need to do, and so I would assume it wouldn't take long, but you never know.
Well, I don't know what they do for the minority owners.
Oh, they would investigate them too, for sure.
Sure. But like Magic Johnson, high profile. Like I'm
Right.
That doesn't matter. I mean, nobody cares about that. It's investigating his business assets, his background. It doesn't matter that he's a high profile person.
Well, do you think it matters that guys like him and Rails have also been involved with other leagues and ownership?
I mean, it would matter to the owners who are approving him because they would have a confidence in their operations. But at the end of the day, they care far more about the principal owner. I'm telling you guys, you're never going to hear the name Rails and Johnson ever again, and after this is over, okay?
Yeah, right.
But from a background perspective, they want to investigate these guys' business background. Yeah, they want to know if he's carousing with coke and hookers for sure. But they want to know, is this guy? What they don't want is to have like an LA Dodgers event where all of a sudden the team's in bankruptcy court.
Right.
And you do that by having like a train wreck of business assets. So they want to dig into that and find, is this guy's finances for real? They probably have an idea that it is because of last year.
Right.
I don't know about the Canadian. If it's a Canadian guy,
who knows? Yeah, we don't know enough about his background. Yeah.
There's not much at all on him out there, which is weird.
So that's the next step. Let's assume that all goes through. The next owner meeting is in May, right?
Right.
But I've heard multiple people say they could do a vote via phone if they wanted to make this happen quickly.
I don't have to read their corporate governance documents to know. I'm not sure about that.
Well, they could do something like they did with Carolina, where I believe it was actually the May owners meeting. They had an emergency meeting a month later or something like that. And within like a 3-month span, the team was sold. But that was under much different circumstances.
I can guarantee you there's a method in the corporate governance documents through which they can call an emergency meeting if they have to. The question isn't that. The question is, is there a reason to? I mean, the fans want it done. I mean, okay. But is there really a reason to rush the process? Not really. I mean, I would
assume there are a chunk of owners who want this done as fast as possible too.
Well, of course, but I mean, is it an emergency? No. I mean, the Jerry Richardson thing was an emergency because there was all kinds of bad PR.
Yes.
Sure.
Snyder's been on a boat in the Mediterranean for 6 months,
and still somehow a lot of bad PR.
Yeah. All my point is, I mean, will they rush it? I mean, they could, but will they?
I could see a bit of an expediting of it, but not rushing like they did with the Richardson. No, I agree.
I don't know, man. I mean, you're talking about a huge asset. I mean, do you really want to rush it? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd want to make sure every base is covered if I was the ownership of the NFL.
I would, and I can't remember, but I think if you'd have to look back at like the Bills sale or some other team sale to see what they did in that situation. Because I do remember with the Bills, there were multiple high-profile people trying to buy the team that they rejected, and we won't get into who and why, because that's a political podcast at that point. But that was
a whole. Are you saying like what? Just say it.
Okay, Trump tried to buy the Bills, and they didn't want him because he was mobbed up.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a thing.
That's not politics. That's just a factual reality.
Yeah. So there was that, and then they sold it to the people who own it now. I think they were the second family to come in to buy them.
But my point with this though is that due diligence like that is not done in a day.
Right.
It takes a long time and a lot of effort to do that. Now, it may go quicker because they've already been down this road with Harris. If it's the other guys, Steve, Apostolapa, Pupa, Papa, Papa, Sapatopoulos, then it could take, months.
No, months. A full 6 months.
Yeah, months.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now you guys had background checks in your military careers
I've had many as a licensed attorney. I've had multiple background checks.
Sure.
I've gone as high as top secret in my clearance. I definitely had a lot of.
Oh yeah, you did
on that.
Yeah. I don't know if the checks they do are that invasive, but
the TS ones are. The basic secret one.
No. I meant the checks that the NFL is going to do is equal to anything like that.
Well, this is. I mean, yeah, they would do a background check, but it's more like business due diligence. I mean, yeah, sure, they might do a basic search on the person, but it's more about their finances.
Well, like when I did even my basic clearance that I have, like they do a serious financial search on you.
Yeah, but the serious financial search in Alex Zeese is not the same as a
no,
guy trying to buy a
$6
$6 million asset.
No, it does not take as long unless you have a lot of weird debt. They don't freak out. I had a guy who worked with me that got rejected because he was just in so much debt, but that was a whole different story. Yeah.
God help us if the classified information at the Department of Education leaks.
Oh no, that was Treasury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't want a guy in a lot of debt at the Treasury.
I think you need to tell the federal government that, but that is another podcast.
Yeah. All right,
the people who
Dave,
have marched us to $31 trillion and rising in federal debt. But continue. So,
let's close with this. Steve, you're Mr. Pessimism.
I'm not Mr. I'm just trying to be realistic. It brings up a question, what about my fandom and all that? And maybe that's another question for another day. I was a Redskins fan. I'm not a stupid Commanders fan, and I'm not going to be. I don't care who owns it. But let's just relax for a while. The real celebration needs to come when the NFL has gone through their background check, voted to approve whichever owner this is, and there's an announcement. That is when to celebrate. That's all I'm saying.
When the keys are handed over.
I have seen many, many deals blow up for all kinds of reasons, and that could certainly happen again.
But my question to you was this. Best case, worst case timeline on this. Worst case, obviously, it doesn't happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But
best case timeline, realistically, in the earliest possible timeline, 2 or 3 months, I'd say.
2 to 3 months? Okay.
Yeah, unless it's just truly this guy is a rapist. Jerry Richardson, we must cut every corner. That's just not where we are. So I realistically, I can't see due diligence on something like this taking less than a couple months at least. And they still have to negotiate a contract. They might not have done that yet. Right. That takes for a long time too. And worst case scenario, I had a $70 million deal that finally closed, but it took a year and a half to get there.
Yeah, well, I remember you telling me about some of those deals. Just
some of them take forever. Yeah, well, I had an $800 million deal that took a few weeks. Mm-hmm. I died at the end, but it just depends on what's going on.
A lot of factors, I'm sure. A lot of factors. Dave, I'm gonna ask you a different question. Your confidence level after Steve just rained on our parade.
You're welcome.
Well, you know what? He's just being a realist, and I appreciate that. I fully understand everything he said, and he's not wrong. And it's everything that fans should hear anyways. And Steve gave a ton of really good information there for people who always sit back and kind of listen maybe 2 or 3 times and really kind of soak in, just so they don't get themselves too hyped for the sale. And I get that, and you shouldn't. We really shouldn't rush into the excitement of it. Myself, I just look at it as, right now that door is finally open and it's going to happen, whether it goes through and it happens in the next 2 or 3 months or happens over 6 months or even a year. I think it's pretty clear cut that he's going to be gone. He's going to be out, and if you were to ask me to give you my comment on Dan like a year ago, I'd probably bash him, destroy him, everything under the sun. But today I'm a different person, a specific path that I've been walking lately and everything. You know what? I'm going to tell him, sell the team, move on, best of luck, move forward. No ill will from me anymore. Don't care about the past. I'm worried about the future. I'm just going forward, and that's it. I'm not going to carry any ill will for Dan Snyder. I hope the best for him and everything works out. And I'm just moving forward to new ownership, new era, new culture, new everything. Even if we don't win a championship, I just want a better organization that's run in a direction where they at least try to legitimately build a roster, win a championship, something of that nature.
Embarrass themselves.
Don't embarrass themselves, yes.
I haven't rubbed off on you at all, have I? I'm so disappointed.
Steve, you've rubbed off on me. I have nothing but ill will for Dan Snyder.
See,
I would get in trouble for you would yell at me for the things I want to see happen.
Yeah, don't do that, because we're gonna get sued because I know what you're gonna say.
Trust me, it took me a while to come to terms on this. If you had asked me about a month ago to give you my full expression and everything, I might have unleashed a bit too. I kind of did on that one pod that we had.
You did a little, yeah.
Yeah, a little
I
bit,
mean,
but you know,
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and think of stew over Dan Snyder. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, at the end of the day, the guy ruined my favorite team, ruined my fandom, caused me not to be a fan of the team anymore, changed the name, all these things, and I'm not gonna wish him the best.
Actually, you know what? It's not even that he changed the name. He used the name of the sacrificial lamb in hopes that they'd bury everything else. That's the only reason why he changed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of the minority owners thing.
And unsuccessfully at that.
Unsuccessful. Just like everything else he touches is unsuccessful.
Yep. Well, I tweeted this today. This man has failed at everything he's ever tried. Every company he's been involved in has gone bankrupt. Every friendship, every relationship he's had, except for his wife somehow, has been burned and destroyed, and they all hate him. The only thing he ever loved, this team, he destroyed. Yeah. And yet he's still making out with $6 billion. Yay,
if
capitalism.
I had to take a stab at it, I'd say his wife is not too happy with him.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Don't worry. His comeuppance is going to happen.
Some point.
Karma
someday.
is going to slam him, and it's going to happen. I'm just not going to revel in it because he's going to get what he deserves down the road. I'm just moving forward. I'm not going to carry that with me every day going forward.
So let's fast forward to whenever this sale closes, be it a couple months, 6 months, whatever. At some point, a sale is going to close.
Yep.
Do you legitimately think there's going to be a legitimate parade downtown Washington, D.C.?
I don't think there will be a legitimate parade. I think there might be illegitimate revelry. Because you know how hard it is to get a parade permit.
Yeah, I guess I asked a bad question. I mean, nobody's going to get a parade permit, and
is there going to be people out in the streets celebrating? Yes,
that's what
I think
I'm asking.
There will be. Yes,
like literally in the streets, like a mob in the streets.
People are already trying to get it to happen like tomorrow.
That's the people don't know what they're talking about. Think that.
No, I think there will be, and hell, I wouldn't be surprised if the team sponsors some kind of big event celebrating the sale. If I were a marketing guy for Harris's people, I would say, the day you sell, we're just going to have like a fan rally somewhere.
You know what my first thing here I'll ask you guys this, and then we're probably out of time here, right? But
yeah,
who cares? So you're the new owner, be it Harris or Apostolapa Pupa Papa Tapapopoulos.
Right.
What is job number one? I'll tell you mine. I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
The very first thing I would say in the opening press conference would be, I'm changing the name. I would say that would be sentence number one. Number two, welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Right.
I'm changing the name. That's what I would say. Without a question. As a matter of fact, I might even say I'm changing it to the Washington Warriors, the Washington Redskins, the Washington whatever. I might say it and just do it. That would be job number one.
I mean, I was I don't want to say arguing, but debating with one of those sports business guys, and he was saying that he does, like, even though people want that, it can't be priority one because you got to figure out if you're going to keep guys like Jason Wright. That really should be your priority.
You're not
I get that.
Jason Wright.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like,
and also
there was logic to what he was arguing. I get it.
Two things can be done at once. This is not like a series. It's not a series line of Christmas lights.
Right.
In fact, it's Chris Russell telling all the fans that, you guys are crazy if you think that they should take on the whole rebranding and changing the name day one. They have so many other things to work on. And I'm just like, man, these owners come in here. You don't think they just pull up one task, do that one, and move on to the next. They got a million things going on at once. All they got to sit there and say is, hey, listen, I want to change the name. I'm going to change it to this. This is what I'm going to do. It's available. You get the copyright. You figure this out. You figure out the uniform. Get the team together. You guys go in a room. When you guys are done, let me see the final product. I give you a stamp of approval. We'll move forward. And while he does that, he can move on to the next one.
Yeah. Now, a new owner may not care. Sure. He may not want to spend the money. It's going to cost a fortune to do that. So that's just what I would do. But the new owner might go, I don't really care what this team name is.
Well, don't be surprised if Josh Harris, you get just that, because the one thing he liked the idea of in Philadelphia, he was always wanting to kind of tinker with the look, the uniform. He couldn't mess with the name, obviously.
No,
if he came in here with
is iconic. I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. If he came in here knowing that Commanders has the stench of Snyder on him, on it from day one, and he knows that the fans are that unhappy with Commanders mainly because of Snyder, I mean, he's gonna market that. He's gonna go right into a direction. I would not be surprised. Maybe not day one, but I wouldn't be surprised within a year. You say, hey, I followed this for this name, start in 2024 or whatever. We are going to be called this. No vote. We're not going to call no fans. We're not going to do all this, all pop and circumstances. This is what we are. This is what we're going to be. We're going to keep burgundy and gold and move forward.
Yeah. Now, the only thing to this, I agree with you. The only factor into that is they would need to get the NFL approval, to approve it. So, I mean, the idea of him, this new owner, literally saying this is the new name may not be realistic, but would be realistic is him to say, I'm changing it in story.
Yeah.
And I know, and I have some ideas. We'll let you know.
I mean,
then get it approved.
It would not surprise me if they are going that direction. And let's say it's Harris, maybe this other guy, Stephen A. That groundwork's probably already being discussed with the NFL.
Realistically, sure, yeah.
I mean, you would have to be doing that. You would have to be getting your patent attorneys and your copyright lawyers in this discussion now, so that you don't have what happened to Dan Snyder, which is every good name got squatted on right away.
Yeah.
We talked to Philip McCauley about it. I mean,
right.
And
if I were Harris, I would probably call Philip McCauley and say, I want this name. I'm going to give you $40,000, whatever it is.
This is the guy who, with a straight face, told me that it was a hobby.
I know. Hey, man, you know what? He should go play poker. He's a good bluffer.
Right.
I called him on the phone. He said, "This is a hobby." Why are you doing this? It's a hobby. Okay.
Sure.
I think we're done here.
Yeah. Well, I do know if it's Josh Harris when it comes to the front office side of it, because he did it with the Sixers and he did it with the Devils. He's patient enough. He gives that front office a chance, and he goes to top leadership, and he puts that top. He doesn't try to tinker down with coaching and stuff like that. It's real simple. The win-loss record and where we are with development. If it's not there,
right.
I'm sorry, but we're moving on unless you have a plan to get us where we need to go.
Yeah, I've heard he's a big, I want to see a plan guy.
Yes.
And he'll let you execute it. But
which is why I don't think Ron Rivera is going to survive this, to be honest with you.
Oh, I don't either. I don't either. Yeah. I mean, you guys are on social media. I mean, as we all know, I'm not. My sense is only the most sycophantic simps for this team really actually like the name Commanders.
Yes.
Everybody else hates it, basically, right?
Yeah,
or has a dislike at some level.
With all due respect to them, it's basically just the hog farmers who really like it. You know?
Okay.
And I respect what they do. I respect, their
there's a charitable component. And,
yeah,
right.
But
there's a lot of people
like
that just start tolerating
to like it.
I think the biggest issue that most people that I've seen is the fact that all the talk of what like Red Wolves and Warriors and everything else, even in the phone calls that people had with Jason Wright, to include me, talking about anything with it, there was never any hint at all about Commanders. So when Commanders came out, it was like, well, gee, you guys probably had this name already set. You guys are just playing this like how the how the Bullets did for Washington, from what I understand from those stories.
Yeah, the Bullets did the same thing with Wizards. They had a poll. It came in fourth or something, and they picked it anyway.
Here's my analogy. Because I always have an analogy for this. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is no longer the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they're letting rappers and country singers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's just the Music Hall of Fame, yes.
It ought to be the Music Hall of Fame, yeah. But so how voting's always worked, they give like a bunch of insiders votes. Some of them have like 5 votes each. They made a big deal a couple years ago in response to outcries from the fans because they're putting stupid, idiotic choices in the Hall of Fame. They said, the fans have a vote. Fans have a vote now.
Right.
Well, you know what the vote is? The fan vote is 1 vote out of hundreds. That's what the fans have. And that is not unlike what Jason Wright did to you, Dave, and you, Alex, personally, by making both of you believe that they cared about fan input. And all along, I have a suspicion that they knew they wanted Commanders or realized that was the most realistic shot, but they want to make people believe it matters, much like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame wants to be able to say, we gave you guys a voice.
Right.
It might have been 0.01% of a voice, but that's what the team did to the fans of this franchise.
It's exactly what happened. I don't want to go too late, guys, and we're already going longer than we thought. So let's wrap this up. Thanks for jumping on, Steve. I know you didn't want to. Dave.
No, I'm always one to talk. I didn't want guys, I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm just trying to be a realist.
No, but I realize you also.
Well, no, you weren't. I think you laid out really good information that every fan should listen to and really take in. You weren't being pessimistic at all. You were just being a realist. No, you weren't at all.
Listen,
you're fine.
This is what happened. Dave and Alex both send me excited text messages this afternoon. I'm in the middle of like multiple crises at work. I didn't know any of this. And I get this like it's happening. And so I look and I realize this is what's actually happened is not quite the celebration I thought. So that's all. So
right.
I hope it works out. I hope the dude's gone. Believe me, I'll be the first one to kick his butt on the way, and laugh at him on the way out.
Realistically, you also know as well as we do. It's not like they were going to announce it and it was just going to be done. Like
that's not a universe in which that can happen in this scenario.
Right, exactly. This is just you're climbing a mountain, and we climbed a big part of the mountain.
But what you could do, if you could do, is you could have your PR staff put a press release out that says, "Little Danny has reached an agreement in principle with the Josh Harris Group." Then to sell the Washington franchise, the next step is to submit the bid for league evaluation, and we will have more details to come. You could say that,
right? And they didn't.
But they didn't.
No.
Right.
I don't even. Right. I don't know who's running their press office at this point. Even I don't know if anyone's there.
I think Danny
might be empty.
Really couldn't care less about what anybody thinks but himself.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
Of course not. All right, guys. Thanks for hopping on. And to all
emergency pod for the first time in like years.
Yes, emergency pod.
We'll do another one when the real emergency comes up. We'll do another one.
Well,
absolutely.
That'll be the victory pod. It's a totally different pod.
Go. That's true.
We eat ham during it because it's a celebration.
Ham. I forgot you're a Jew, Alex.
But like 99% of Jews, I don't keep kosher anymore, or believe in God for that matter. Yeah.
So where does ham come from? I'm confused.
One, the hogs. So you get that kind of.
We're gonna eat a hog.
Yeah. Why? What else?
Isn't that kind of cannibalism?
Only if we're also.
We're not eating tutty. We're not eating tutty. Not him.
We're the hog sty. We need to eat tutty. That thing needs to go the way of the dodo.
I mean, tutty's got a nice punch to him. I bet there's good bacon on tutty.
Well, somebody needs to turn him into bacon so nobody ever have to look at him ever again.
All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Talk to you all next week.
All right, fellas, take it easy.
For you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.